Hi, South Lyon tennis team. I want to catch you up a little bit on what it is that I do know for the season. I've been receiving a lot of questions about when we are starting and what it's going to look like. And in truth, I don't have a whole lot of answers here, but I want to let you know what I do know. So thank you so much for tuning in and taking just a few moments to get caught up on this. All right. So as you can see from our slide here, tryouts are currently scheduled for March 15th. However, there is an announcement on a possible delay that will come next week. I cannot emphasize enough that word possible. It is absolutely possible that the MHSAA will say that we are still starting on March 15th because they can't bump all of the regional and state tournaments back any further than they can. At the same time, winter sports were so postponed that they are not going to end when they expected to. So fall and winter would be rolling right on top of each other. And even with our facilities, which are in pretty good shape, we would really struggle here. And if South Lyon is feeling that way, I have to imagine that states or schools across the state would really, really struggle to be wrapping up winter sports and start spring sports all at the same time. We just simply don't have the facilities to do that. So there is a possible delay. We'll find out hopefully next week if that happens. But as I discussed some things today, March 15th is going to be our target date, as until we hear otherwise, that is what we are expecting for our start date. All right. You also notice up at the top that we've got the money amounts. Those have not changed, but we'll talk a little bit about that. Hold off on that. I put it on here just because those will be the expected fees. However, things are going to look a little bit different this year, so I want to make sure that we have a chance to talk about those. So let's talk about what it is that we do know, and then we'll talk about what we don't know. All right. So as I said, tryouts are scheduled to begin on March 15th. Maybe. We will operate under that assumption until we hear otherwise. So how can you make sure that you stay up to date? Well, one, of course, is we need to make sure we're signed up for our Remind group. Chances are you are, because you are listening to this video right now. But if you know someone who is interested in joining the team and they are not signed up, I need you to please pass on this information. This is our main form of communication. I really recommend downloading the Remind app. It is free. I think it's easier to use than texting. Or if you have enough apps on your phone and you would prefer just to be able to text back and forth, then you can do so by sending our code to the number 81010. And again, that code is at DGB66K. Every single player needs to be signed up for this, and I need at least one parent or guardian per player to sign up for it as well, please. If not, then I end up getting a bunch of emails of, hey, like, when is this taking place? And I've sent it out 3 or 4 times via Remind, and that's no big deal when it's an email. But when it gets to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different parents emailing for things that are already coming out via Remind, that's when things get a little bit frustrating. So we want to make sure we have at least one parent or guardian all hooked up on Remind. Certainly, you can reach out to me at PruderJ at SLCS as well. And that's great for some longer questions, perhaps, that you wouldn't just shoot off in a quick text message. Time, location, and structure of tryouts is to be announced. Again, we may have to navigate winter sports running long. Even if we don't, we know that the gym is really, really squished for space. So whether we start on the 15th, whether that gets pushed back a week or two, how exactly we're going to structure that is going to be a little bit up in the air, because we cannot have students on top of each other. Normally we cram 40, 50, 60 girls into 1/3 of the gym, or we've got some there and we're using the dance studio. We have to be thinking about cleaning and all of these things that we simply have not had to navigate to that extent before. And so we're going to be using 1/3 of the gym, maybe the dance room, probably some hallways in the school for conditioning. So what exactly that's going to look like, we just don't know. What we do know is this: we are not going to be able to carry a very, very big team. In truth, we were planning on making cuts last year anyway. We probably should have started that process maybe even a couple years ago. And so this year with the pandemic, we are planning on getting it down to our most essential numbers. To be clear, we've been really fortunate to have the turnout that we've had for a long time. South Lyon girls tennis was come on out, even if you've never played before, even if you've never played any sport before, we'll teach you tennis. With the pandemic, that's just not feasible. And at the same time, even if it was not a pandemic, we're at the point now where we need to start focusing on not just learning how to play tennis, but learning how to play tennis better. And having 50, 60 girls is just not fair, because then girls are not getting the attention that they need to become better tennis players. So here are our target numbers. Varsity, I'm planning to carry 14 to 16 girls. Why that number? We have 1 through 5 doubles, so that's in partners. So 5 doubles teams, that's 10 girls, and then 1 through 4 singles, 4. So that gets us to 14. I included 16 on there because depending on competition, it can be good to have a 6th doubles team. I think especially in case there was someone who had to go into quarantine, it's great to be able to pull girls up. So numbers 15 and 16 are technically part of the varsity team, but there are going to be some matches where they're playing down at the JV level at 1 doubles. There will be other times in which they are playing at the 6 double slot for varsity if the team we're playing also has a 6 doubles. So numbers 15 and 16 on varsity are kind of a flexible spot. Again, sometimes playing varsity, sometimes playing JV. It's going to depend on what the other team is bringing to the table. That sets our target goal for JV at 18 to 20 girls. 18 is great because then if numbers 15, 16 from varsity come down, that bumps you to 20 rather than to 22. But we would max out probably around 20 girls on JV. There are only 4 courts available, and having 4 girls on a court is ideal. So 4, 8, 12, 16. Adding in an additional 4 to get to 20 is absolutely doable, but it can get a little bit messy. So we're capping that at 20. So that means at most we're planning on carrying 36 girls. We had over 60 girls come to tryouts last year before we got shut down for the pandemic. I'm not great at math, but that means cutting nearly half the girls that came out last year. So we need to do some really, really careful thinking about coming out for the team this year. And if you know me, if you've worked with me before, you know that those are tough conversations to have. But if you have never played any sports before, if you have never picked up a tennis racket, this may not be the year for you. There are other sports that you can get involved in that are no cut, such as track, but we are not going to be able to do that this year. Not with the pandemic, not with the numbers that we've had out. 32 to 36 is going to be our target number. Okay, so let's talk about a couple other quick things here. The paperwork. Once we get more details on exactly where we're going to start, we'll dive into this even more. We'll talk about equipment and all of those things. I promise I'll create something else that has a little bit more of the nitty gritty in it. I just wanted this to be the most essential. Whether we start on March 15th or whether we get pushed off a week or two, there are 3 documents that I have to have from you. 1 is your physical, 2 is your participation form, and 3 is your offsite transportation form, although we'll talk more about that. You'll notice, though, that number 1 has a few different arrows going on, and here's why. They've given you 2 options this year. 2 options. 1 is to have a physical on form, having a physical after April 15th of last year. That means you went and got a physical last spring or last summer or in the fall or in the winter, and you've got that on file at SLHS, or you got it for something else and you can give that to me, or you decide to go get one right now. That's the classic traditional way. The other thing that they've given this year is you can fill out the MHSAA Sports Health Questionnaire for this year only. Again, this is just a one-time thing that they are doing. And that is if you had a physical on file at SLHS last school year. So you participated in something in the fall, winter, or you had one on file because you were ready to participate in the spring last year before we got canceled. If you have that, then you can fill out that health questionnaire, and that can replace your physical only for this year. If you need more information on that, you'll notice that there is a frequently asked questions sports health questionnaire right here, the third one down, and you can get more information there. So again, you can either have a physical or the health questionnaire this year. That's form number 1. Form number 2 is your student athlete participation fee and expectation form. And then 3 is going to be the offsite transportation form. We are going to have every single girl fill that out. However, we very rarely used buses last year due to social distancing, and because if a girl were to test positive, rather than having to shut down the entire bus, we could shut down only the car that she was in. We did that mostly at the varsity level. So while we are going to have everyone figure out offsite or fill out an offsite transportation form, for those girls who make varsity, for many of our matches and many of our tournaments, we are not going to be getting buses. We'll talk more about that at a later date, because I know that does bring up some concerns, both safety concerns with girls driving themselves, as well as the fact that you're paying $180. What's that money then going to? I promise I'll explain in more detail as we get a little bit closer there. But again, I have to have, if nothing else, either the physical or the health questionnaire on our first day of practice. Again, we operate like that's going to be March 15th until we hear otherwise. If you show up and you do not have that on file, if you do not have that to hand to me, I cannot let you try out. And with making cuts this year, we want to make sure that you don't put yourself in that spot. All right, folks. So quick recap here. 1, all players must sign up for Remind. Again, I recommend the app, or you can text if you have that set up, but I do recommend the app, and at least one parent and guardian should sign up as well. Time, location, and structure of tryouts is all to be determined. Until we hear otherwise, we will operate under the assumption that we will begin on March 15th. So please have that down. Physical or health questionnaire must be given to me or on file in the athletic office by that first practice. Without it, you cannot participate. And once again, our target numbers, 32 to 36 total, because that would be 14 to 16 girls maximum on varsity and 18 to 20 girls maximum on JV. All right, folks. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, if they're quick, please shoot me a message through Remind. If they're a little bit longer, please feel free to shoot me an email. Once again, you can reach me at pruderj@slcs.us. You can also stop by my classroom, which is B258, once we are back in person next week. I do plan to be able to give you more information on the nitty-gritty of the season. Hopefully in the next few weeks, I will let you know as I learn things. So, folks, thank you so much for your attention. And if there's any extra information that I can provide, please let me know. We will plan to see you on March 15th unless we hear otherwise. And I hope that you stay safe and healthy. And I look forward to having a great season together. Thank you so much.